Hi, and welcome to the Business Pioneer Podcast. I'm your host, Erica Montgomery, founder and CEO of Three Girls Media Inc., an award-winning digital marketing agency. Today's guest is Brett Ruse, founder of RapidWise Financial Coaching. Brett has spent over a decade helping people transform not just how they manage money, but how they think about it. He's worked with everyone from solopreneurs to professionals with variable incomes. And Brett's approach is really all about uncovering the beliefs that hold us back, building personalized plans, and giving clients the tools they need in order to take action. Plus, he is a touring metal guitarist and a bachata dancer. How cool is that? So we've got a fun conversation ahead. Brett, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thanks for Erica. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. And all those things that you said, they're all true. They're odd,
Excellent.
but they're true.
Yeah, and my husband is a metal guitarist as well. So I definitely appreciate the music, and I'm sure you two would have a lot in common. But we're not here today to talk specifically about music. We're here to talk about your business, RapidWise Financial Coaching. So tell me a little bit about RapidWise, what it is you do, and how you got started.
Yeah, absolutely. Basically what I do is I help people, like you said, help people transform their relationship when it comes to finances and their money. Because how people think and feel about money will determine how they manage it, how they operate with it, the amount of money that they make. And then I help them with all of the different skills and tools that they need in order to do better with their finances as well and achieve the financial success they're capable of and they ultimately deserve as well.
That's great. I think one of the misconceptions that people have about financial coaching is that you need to be rich in order to have a financial coach or financial advisor, or if not rich, at least extremely well off. And I understand that that's not the case. Talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I always say the thing that makes what I do different than like financial planning is that as a coach, I don't offer any financial products of any kind, and I don't give investment advice for people. That is what a financial planner or a financial advisor is going to do. But yeah, you are correct. I think that when it comes to coaching, people at any income level, at any financial situation can benefit from coaching, specifically because when it comes to finances, a lot of times people get really stuck in the weeds. They're very focused in on what's going on in their own situation. And they're also focused in on usually one thing. And they can't see all the other things around their situation that maybe is holding them back. And so a coach can really help in pointing out things that's just not visible to them because they're just so zoomed in. They're so close to it. So we help people zoom out when it comes to their financial situation and really look at it from a big perspective and see like, okay, it's like imagining that, you're in the city and you want to go from point A to point B and it's across the city. Now, if you're just walking it's really hard to tell where you're going. But then if you were to take a helicopter up high, you could start to see the route. And then you add a navigation in, which is essentially what we do for people, is help them create a strategy on how to get there. It makes getting to where you want to go a whole lot simpler and you're more likely to get there.
Yeah, I love that analogy. And, if you think about it, where would we be today without GPS, right? It helps us get everywhere. And it sounds to me like you're kind of a GPS for people's finances.
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually a really great analogy too, because when it comes to like our own situations, no matter what it is, anything in life, we can always say it's harder to solve our own problems than it is to help somebody solve their problems. Usually because we know what we should be doing. Like somebody, when it comes to their finances, they know what usually they should be doing, but they're just not doing it. And so it is like, you're in the car, you're parked there, and you know that you want to get to the store, you want to get across town somewhere you want to go, but you just don't know which direction to go first. And so you're like, do I take a left or do I take a right? What's the best way to get there? I mean, some people kind of figure it out. I mean, they usually stumble along the way, and it can take a long time to do that, especially because there's a lot of noise that distracts people out there with like YouTube and TikTok. And there's some advice out there that's really good, and there's some advice out there that's really, really bad. So people just don't know really where to start. But yeah, creating a GPS, a navigational map for them on how to go from, hey, I'm just sitting in the parking lot in my car to, here's the store that I want to get to, really will ultimately help them get there a whole lot faster.
Yeah, I can imagine. Everybody needs directions these days. And I think that can apply to so many areas of our life, whether it's your finances or whether it is literally directions from point A to point B, or whether it's cooking dinner and using that recipe as a guide to help you, get there and do it well. So maybe you can tell our viewers what the difference is between what you do, financial coaching, versus a financial advisor.
Yeah, absolutely. Once again, I don't sell any kind of financial products, no life insurance, no investment strategies, no investment planning. Financial advisors really do spend a lot of time creating strategies on very long-term investments. Mm-hmm. So they're usually going to sit down with somebody and say like, okay, what is your goal long-term for your money? Here's how you should invest that money. Here's how much you need to invest in order to achieve that goal. And then they're going to kind of, in a way, usually manage your money in a sense. Now, a lot of them will do different things beyond that as well, but it's kind of around that area. Now, working with a coach like myself, it is going to be different in the fact that I will talk about long-term strategies, but really it's the day-to-day stuff that I get excited about working with, helping people make sound financial decisions that will help them hit their goals, helping them set goals in the first place, short-term and long-term goals, helping them create a strategy on how to achieve those goals, finding out what has been holding them back from achieving those goals in the past. Because a lot of times they know what they want to achieve, they just don't know where to start. And then, the accountability on like, hey, let's actually do this thing. And here's when you have to have it done by. And then also empowering people to take action on those steps too, because a lot of times just the fear of the unknown or the fear of doing something that we know we should do, but we're scared to do it, it really holds us back for a long time. So empowering people to take action on the steps, and then just being that like support that's there, that's non-judgmental. It's not the whole like, you've been bad with your money and I'm going to tell you all the things you've done wrong. Like, that's not what I do. What I do is I really find a way to support people and focus on what's working and how we can make the things that haven't been working work better.
Yeah, I love that. So, tell me, do you work with like individuals and families, businesses, or both?
I work mainly with like individuals and couples, and then I will work with small business owners, solopreneurs, freelancers. I don't get into a lot of big business financial strategy or anything like that. But I really like digging into people's, like I said, personal money psychology, like how they think and feel and how they grew up around money, because it really dictates a lot. And once we figure out like those things, we can start to transform their relationship with money, which ultimately will help them achieve what they want to achieve a whole lot faster with a lot less resistance. So I like working with individuals and couples when it comes to their finances.
Fantastic. And I'm guessing that it's never too early to start, right? So you can work with people almost any age, I would guess.
Yep. I would say that the earlier, the better. But also it's never too late to start as well. Like a lot of people think that, oh, I'm in my 50s or I'm in my 60s, or even I've helped people in their 70s or 80s learn more about money. And so they may think like, I'm too far beyond, like, you can't help me now. But that's not true. You can start at literally any time in your life. Now, it is easier the younger you are, because you don't have as many financial mistakes to try to make up for, or, delays in financial strategy to try to catch up on. And so when you start younger, it is a little bit easier, but also you have to be ready to actually put the steps into action. And you have to be ready to realize that, the way that I think and feel about money has been affecting the way I manage it and the way I act around it. And you have to accept that and be ready to actually transform that as well.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So, as an entrepreneur, what would you say are some of your biggest business challenges?
Well, I mean, entrepreneurial things always, I think the same thing with everybody I talk to. It's growing the business, it's scaling the business, it's getting the word out there and the exposure, and then figuring out, like, okay, this marketing strategy works, this marketing strategy doesn't work. And it is a lot of finding out. But luckily, I have some really good people around me that help me with some of the stuff that I don't understand.
Hmm.
Also, I love researching and I actually do like trying out different things and really seeing what does work and what doesn't work. And then I always feel like I'm never an expert really at anything. I always like to take the beginner approach at literally everything in my life. I think that when we start to use the term expert, we stop ourselves from growing. And so I like to use that beginner term of like, we're all beginners. Like even if we know almost everything there is to know about a subject, we're still a beginner. We can learn different ways to teach that subject or to talk about that subject or just all different kinds of things or a different method. So there's lots of different strategies about it. But yeah, I mean, exposure, marketing, usually some of the harder things when it comes to starting a business. I think one of the biggest challenges that I had in the beginning was, what the heck am I even going to name this thing? That was one of the biggest challenges. But luckily, I had a friend that we sat down and we really hammered it out over like an 8-hour video call on trying to figure out what should I name this thing and what should the logo look like and all that.
Yeah, and I think that's something that people often don't put enough time and thought into, is what to name their business when they're going into business for themselves. And, a good name should be memorable and it should say something about what you and your business do. And I know for me, I get a ton of questions about the name of my company, Three Girls Media Inc. And a lot of people assume that it's three sisters or three friends or something like that that went into business together. And that's actually not the case. When I was trying to come up with a name for the company, I wanted something memorable. And it occurred to me that in the world of marketing, which is what I do, what we really do is spread the word about things in one way, shape, or form. And if you want to spread the word about something, what's the fastest and most efficient way to get that done? All you have to do is tell three girls, and before you know it, it's out there like wildfire. So hence the name of the company. And, to this day, 20 years in, I get a ton of questions about the name and people wanting to know who the three girls are. So it's worked out well for me, but I think that it's really smart to spend time and effort and thought into what it is you're going to name your business. And so tell me how you ended up with RapidWise and what the impetus was there.
Yeah, it was like a whole lot of brainstorming with my one of my good friends. Also, my other BFF, ChatGPT, was involved as well.
Ah, okay.
Use all the resources and tools that you can.
Sure, absolutely.
And I really wanted a name. I didn't want a company that was like my name. Which a lot of entrepreneurs do want a business that's after their name. But honestly, I didn't want a business that's after my name because I wanted something that, as I continue to grow and I scale this business and I can teach other coaches how to coach in the same manner that I have been, like, I don't want them to be challenged with the thing of like, oh, well, you're not the guy, right? And I want to be able to spread the word of what I do to a, possibly a worldwide setting. And so I wanted a name that, like I said, wasn't attached to my name. I also wanted something that really dictated, like, what is it that I help people do? And I didn't want it to be this giant long name. Now it's kind of long, especially when you type it out. So, but, I like the idea of, when I help people, they really do become more money wise in a faster way. So they become wiser with their money fast, hence RapidWise. And that's hence the money sign in the logo too.
Love that. That makes a lot of sense. And so what are some of the biggest challenges that are facing your industry right now in terms of financial coaching?
Yeah, I would say that the biggest challenge out there, honestly, is I mean, there's a couple things. One, we all know them. They're called fake gurus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's trying to sell something. They're trying to sell
Sure.
a million courses. I'm going to help you do all this kind of stuff. They're showing off all the time. Here's my car. Here's my house. Look what I've done. Buy my program. I'll teach you how to do the same. And then they just don't deliver in any way.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of funny actually, because I had a coaching session with a client yesterday, and we actually talked about this because the conversation was, I feel like I should be farther along than I am based on what I see, right? People driving around in cars and stuff. So we talked a lot about that. And then we started talking about, fake gurus and all that kind of stuff. And, he had told me, when I first met you and heard what you did, I thought you were some kind of fake guru guy that was just trying to sell whatever. And then he was like, when I signed up to work with you, my dad actually had told me that you were just going to take my money and run, like that you weren't going to be able to help me, And what he said was, he's like, we've been working together for 2 months. He's like, I realized pretty quick that none of that was true. That you're actually going to help me do the work and, be there with me to walk. And when I'm going to walk, crawl when I'm going to crawl, run when I'm going to run. And to really just like be invested in his success. I
Mm-hmm.
get, some business people will say that this is a bad thing, but honestly, I love what I do, like 100%. And I get emotionally involved in my client's success. And so it's like, it's a real thing for me, like seeing them transform from a place of like struggling with money in some capacity, whether it's, I don't make enough, or it's I am drowning in debt. I'm not saving enough. I keep overdrawing my account. I can't talk to my partner about money. We always fight about it. Whatever that topic is, seeing them go from that to the results that they achieve just after working together for really 2 to 3 months, it just like, it literally makes me like tear up when I start talking about it in like
Mm.
presentations, giving, testimonies and stuff. So I would say fake gurus, competing with like all the bad advice that's out there. I would
Mm-hmm.
also say that a lot of people really associate financial coaching with financial entertainment, being that, there's big name personalities out there like Dave Ramsey and Caleb Hammer. And, I really I enjoy listening to them. And I enjoy listening to their stuff. And I think that they do teach good principles, but I think that they teach in a manner that is not helping the community in a way. Some people want that, like, like you're doing things wrong and I'm your dad and telling you everything's bad, and that constant berating. But for a lot of people out there who are hearing this stuff and listening, they're embarrassed about their situation.
Mm.
Maybe they feel like they make too much money to just be overdrawing their account and they don't want to talk to anybody about it. And then the first thing that they think of when they think of financial coaching or money coaching is they think this guy is just going to beat me up and tell me everything I've done wrong. He's going to give me some steps on how to fix that. And then see you later. Like that's
Ah.
what they think I'm going to do. And I'm going to
Hmm.
tell them they're not allowed to spend money on anything fun. They're not allowed to go live their life anymore. They have to live a life of constant pain. And, they're never allowed to
Deprivation.
enjoy their money ever again. Right.
Yeah.
It's all about savings rates,
Hmm.
but I'm not going to do any of that. And literally every single first call I have with a client, they always say the exact same thing. They say, wow, this went way different than I thought it was going to go. So I'd
Interesting.
say those are the two challenges that financial coaching really struggles with.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. And what would you say are the most common issues that your clients deal with when it comes to managing money?
Yeah. Well, number one, it's all about how they feel about money. That
Mm.
is usually the issue that is not very apparent on the external side.
Hmm.
Because if they knew how they felt about money realistically, they wouldn't feel that way anymore.
Hmm.
Um, so I would say that is number one, the actual real challenge. That's the
Hmm.
real problem that's happening. Now, the external problems that are usually happening tend to be either debt. They're in a constant cycle of paying off debt. It feels like they're just never going to be done with it. They are feeling like I'm really capable of making a lot more money, but I just can't seem to do it. Or they are like like I said, they're earning a good income, but then they're always waiting for the next paycheck because they just seems like they don't have enough to make it there.
Mm.
Even though they're like, wow, I make so much money. My friends are jealous of my income, but then they just don't know that I'm like struggling every week or every month. I'm overdrawing my accounts. And then the last one, is kind of an interesting one. It's people who actually are really good with money and have money, but they feel really guilty spending it.
Oh,
And so they
interesting.
really struggle with like, I just don't feel like I'm enjoying my life. Like I have this money, but like I'm stressed out all the time and I'm scared I'm going to lose it. And so that's kind of the other end of the spectrum of like, that's actually struggling with money also, but in a totally different sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. I never really considered that, but I think that now that you mention it, it's probably a real fear for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a fear that I had to overcome. It's a challenge that I had to overcome.
Hmm.
I went through the typical baby step program where it was like, pay off your debt, don't do anything fun. I didn't fully listen to that. I created my own rules for that. Save up a bunch of money, do all the stuff, and then you're good. Then you're good to go. And so what I found out was like, I went from, over $51,000 in debt, no savings, to I think about 5 years later, like having like multiple six figures in savings, zero debt, like just in a totally opposite financial situation than I've ever been in my life. And I was scared to buy things that were like $100. Like if I had to call my friend to ask him for permission every single time, I was like, let me go over my numbers with you, man. Is it cool if I buy this? And he was like, why do you feel so bad spending money? And we actually talked about that. And I was like, I don't know. And it was because I was in a scarcity mindset. And so what I ended up realizing, I was like, there's a real problem here that has never been addressed. And it was that. And once I realized where that problem came from and I said it out loud, I realized like, well, that's kind of stupid, That's totally not even true. And then once I realized that, it was like it totally changed. It was like all of a sudden I could see the light. Things were different. I could spend money without feeling guilty, without feeling like I was taking away from my future, and just start enjoying it.
Amazing. I love that. So what would you say are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned as a business owner?
I would say the biggest lessons I've learned is number one, you got to just jump in and say yes before you're ready to say yes. And you probably work with people on that all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Going back to the name thing, I talk to a lot of financial coaches that I mentor also. And, they get stuck on the name or the website. And I'm just like, just do it, just whatever it is, even if it's just your last name or your name in coaching, like, let's just start off with something because you can't be stuck here forever. So jumping in, saying yes, and like, okay, I'm just going to figure this out as I go. And then I'm going to find people along the way that can help me as I start to grow. I think that that's one of the biggest challenges that, people have in this industry starting out is that, and that's something I learned, I got to get it done in one day, right? And then I just got to go with it. Even if it's not perfect, same thing with the website, same thing with every social media post I make. Is this perfect? No, it never is. But is this good enough? Sure.
Yeah.
And then I would say the other one is really about this, like connecting with people, like truly connecting with people and talking with them and getting to know them and learning about them and their business and then helping them out in some capacity, even if it's just, you don't have to help them necessarily by always buying from them or being a customer or a client or giving them a customer or client. But if you're growing your business, a great way to do it is through networking, which is kind of how we ended up meeting, was through networking. And it's connecting them to somebody else that can help them maybe either get a client or find another connection. And so I'd say those are the biggest things that I've learned.
Phenomenal. And what tips do you have for new entrepreneurs?
Just do it. Just like Nike said, send it. That's what I say to my clients. When they're like afraid to send like a billing email or a whatever, I'm like, just send it. Type it up and just hit send. Close your eyes and do it.
Don't delay. Right? Just get it done. I love that. Yeah. Don't be paralyzed. Just make it happen. Absolutely. And, what achievements would you say you're the most proud of for your business?
I mean, honestly, I would say that I'm like just proud of every single like client transformation I've ever been a part of.
Mm.
Like it makes doing what I do feel extremely worth it. I've always said if I was in it for the money, I would just go back to sales. I came from the sales industry. I liked being in sales and I thought I was good at it, and I did well financially in it. But what I do brings a different level of success. And, I was talking with a friend the other day, and we were talking about defining success, which was a really good conversation. And it just came out. Like I never thought about it, but it just came out that I had transitioned the last few years from success means financially succeeding to I can determine my own success in how I interact with others and the impact I can help make on their life. And so I'd say that that's the most thing I'm proud of in my business is just that I've helped people do better with their money and feel more confident in their life and achieve things that they just weren't achieving on their own.
I love that. And that's definitely something to really be proud of for sure. So, Brett, if people are interested in a consultation with you or maybe working with you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, there's a couple methods. Number one, you can go to my website, which is rapidwisefinancialcoaching.com. You'll find a contact form on there where you can reach out and schedule a free consultation call. The second way is you can find me on Instagram. You can find me at either RapidWise Financial Coaching or my personal page, Brett Roos Official, BRETTROOS Official on Instagram. And you can see all my other crazy doings like my bachata dancing and my guitar playing and being wild crowd surfing and doing all the other crazy stuff I do.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And I love that you've got, a good taste of your personal life on your Instagram page. And it's not just all business, because I think people really like to do business with people, right? Not just a nameless, faceless person. And so getting to know who that person really is in real life, I think helps you connect with your customers. So that's great. I love it. One more time, what's your website address?
It's rapidwisefinancialcoaching.com.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being our guest. We have been talking with Brett Roos, the founder of RapidWise Financial Coaching. Brett, thank you so much for being a guest on the Business Pioneer podcast. I've really enjoyed our conversation today.
Absolutely, Erica. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. You have a great day.
You too.
All right. Bye now.